Remember, it's about working with what you have now. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Less perfection, more authenticity. So let's continue. But as a plant reaches down into the mineral world and touches it with the mystery of life, so the universal mind reaches down into the human mind and endows it with new, strange, wonderful, and even marvelous qualities. All men or women who have ever accomplished anything in the world of industry, commerce, or art have accomplished because of this process. Thought is the connecting link between the finite and the infinite, between the universal and the individual. We have seen that there is an impassable barrier between the organic and the inorganic, and that the only way that matter can unfold is to be impregnated with life. As a seed reaches down into the mineral world and begins to unfold and reach out, the dead matter begins to live. 1,000 invisible fingers begin to weave a suitable environment for the new arrival. And as the law of growth begins to take effect, we see the process continue until the lily finally appears, and even, quote, Solomon in all his glory may not be arrayed like one of these, end quote. Even so, a thought is dropped into the invisible substance of the universal mind, that substance from which all things are created, and as it takes root, the law of growth begins to take effect, and we find that conditions and environment but the objective form of our thought. Now, going back to how he taught us in the prior lessons, it was week 1, that consciousness, the universal mind, the substance of the universe that penetrates, permeates, and fills all living things and all material things, that even this dream rock that I'm carrying right now in my hand is permeated and filled with a conscious living energy. Because these rocks are made out of what? They're made out of atoms, and atoms in turn are made out of what? Subatomic particles. And those subatomic particles are made and held together by a higher force, a higher intelligence, a higher mind, which we know is the universal mind. And man, being a conscious living being, remember, we are the I am that exists within this body. We ourselves are consciousness. The Book of Life says that we are created in the image and likeness of God, and that image and likeness is through awareness. We're conscious, and as consciousness we have the ability to think, to feel, and our thoughts being an electromagnetic force, since electromagnetism is the second strongest fundamental force of nature. We learn that in quantum physics, and we'll be going over quantum physics together later on in the future. Remember, we don't have to rush to embody it. We take all this one day at a time. But going back to thought being electromagnetic, since mind itself is electromagnetic, the electrical energy of thought and the vibration of thought, since all matter is not really solid, it's vibrating. And since thought is vibration, whatever thoughts we think will determine whatever state our, not only our mental attitude, but will determine what we're vibrating out into the universal mind. And as he says here, that thought is dropped into the invisible substance of the universal mind. So our thoughts are things. And as we think, and everything we think is being carried along the infinite mind in the form of vibration. And that substance from which all things are created, which is the universal mind. And as it takes root, the law of growth begins to take effect. And we find that conditions and environment are but the objective form of our thought. Now, this is the law of attraction and motion. It's not only as we grow into it, like he says, the law of growth will grow into what we are thinking about, because our thoughts are accepted by the subconscious part of ourselves, and we become that, and we move into that which we think, because it's the nature of consciousness to embody itself. But the law of attraction will begin to attract the things on the outside that correspond with the nature of our own vibrations, with the nature of our own thought processes. So he goes on to saying, the law is that thought is an active, vital form of dynamic energy, which has the power to correlate with its object and bring it out of the invisible substance from which all things are created into the visible or objective world. Now, this is exactly how we utilize the law of attraction for our benefit. We have to think about the things that we want and not about the things that we don't want. He mentioned that in a prior lesson. So we focus and develop our mind to focus on the things that we desire to create and what we desire to see, and on the positive things. That's why they say thinking positive is so important, because the more we think along the lines of positivity, since we're vibrating that into the universe, the universal mind accepting and receiving everything that we are putting out by the law of attraction, since like attracts like, we will begin to attract more of those positive things into our life. This is the law by which and through which all things come into manifestation. It is the master key by which you are admitted into the secret place of the Most High and are, quote, given dominion over all things, end quote. And with an understanding of this law, you may, quote, decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee, end quote. Now that's exact... Excuse me, sorry. Now that's exactly what Christ, our master teacher, has taught us. That when we pray for a thing, we have to know exactly what it is that we're praying for. We have to believe that we have already received it. And through that belief of receiving, it will be established unto us. Why? Because, like Hannah was explaining here, the secret place is in thought. It is in thoughts, in the way we think about things. I'm putting you two away next week in the next video. I see you looking at me. They're brother and sister. They're a little over 3 months old. I originally named them Thing 1 and Thing 2, but my mom said they're too cute to be called Thing 1 and Thing 2, since Thing 1 and Thing 2 are pretty ugly. So we switched their name to Dory, which is the female, and Dale, Dory and Dale, which is the male. And their full name is Hunky Dory and Dasher Dale. Since that happened, and you obviously heard what happened, they knocked over my bike helmet, and then they scattered because they knew that they did something. But you'll see them eventually. But moving back to where we were before, the way we think about things, this is why it's so important for us to know exactly what it is that we want, and why we want the things that we desire to want. We have to be certain about it, because once we start moving in a direction and we think we want something, but along the lines and during the process of moving in the direction of manifesting it, once you decide to do something, I know from experience, when you decided to do something, things were just falling into place to help you achieve that ideal, that goal. Because the law of attraction was in play for you. You knew what you wanted and you held it in mind. Because you held that idea in mind, you were on that vibration. And because of that vibrational state, you were attracting whatever you needed to bring it into material form, to bring it into reality. But during that process, you became uncertain. You weren't sure anymore if that's what it was that you wanted. And because of that uncertainty, things began to fall apart. Why? Because now you started to operate in a different plane in consciousness, mentally. Your attitude changed towards that ideal. And because of your change of attitude, it changed whatever the manifestation process, and things just fell apart. This is why you have to be certain about what you want. You have to know what you want. As the great teacher said, again, when ye pray, believe that you receive it and ye shall have it. But you have to know what you want. It could not be otherwise. If the soul of the universe as we know it is the universal spirit, then the universe is simply the condition which the spirit, the universal spirit, has made for itself. We, you and me, are simply individualized spirit and are creating the conditions for our growth in exactly the same way. And as ancient text said, as within, so without, as above, so below, everything that God is in the universe is, we are that in smaller form. We are that in a human form. Remember, there is only one mind, one consciousness, one source. The Christ himself has told us that the universe, God, is one. And we have to love each other in the things that we do as one, because there is no separation. The only separation is in separation consciousness. But when you remove the veil of separation and differences, there is only the one, the connection, because everything is connected. There is no separation between anything. Now, this creative power depends upon our recognition of the potential power of spirit or mind and must not be confused with evolution. Creation is the calling into existence of that which does not exist in the objective world. Evolution is simply the unfolding of potentialities involved in things which already exist. In taking advantage of the wonderful possibilities opened up to us through the operation of this law, we must remember that we ourselves contribute nothing to its efficacy. As the great teacher said, quote, "It is not I that doeth the work, but the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the work." And what have we learned? That the subconscious mind is the power of God in the universal mind within us. And that the conscious mind, the surface mind, the I am, the part of ourselves which knows itself to be, is made inside and out of the energy and essence of the universal mind. But it is the part that chooses, that reasons, that decides, and creates the mental picture. And from that image, from that picture, and from those thoughts, from that mental attitude, the power of the universe, which is the Father within us, he will begin to do the work to weave that reality into our lives. And since God is one and within everything, not only is he in you, but he is also in everything else, in the person next to you. And that is why you will attract the things and conditions necessary, because everything works as a whole. And as you change, you will begin to meet other individuals that respond to your change, because they will also be operating on that vibration. That is why it's so important for us to focus mainly on growing into becoming the person necessary to achieve our images and ideals. Remember, it starts from within, because we cannot keep something. If we get something prematurely, we won't be able to keep it, because our character isn't right. Our character isn't there yet. That is why we have to grow in character first, because through that maturing process, we will become mature and have the maturity necessary to handle that responsibility. And we have to grow into that responsibility. So we must take exactly the same position. We can do nothing to assist in the manifestation. We simply comply with the law, and the all-originating mind will bring about the result. The great error of the present day is the idea that man has to originate the intelligence whereby the infinite can proceed to bring about a specific purpose or result. Nothing of this kind is necessary. The universal mind can be depended upon to find the ways and means for bringing about any necessary manifestation. We must, however, create the ideal. And this ideal should be perfect. And this is why imagination is so important. Even Einstein says imagination is more important than knowledge, because imagination is the real key and the real secret above intellect that will help you become that person necessary to achieve. Because why? We know a lot of very intellectual people, a lot of very smart people. I like to consider myself one too, and I know you do as well. But it is not so much through the intellect, but through our ability to imagine, to create the mental picture. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Because you could have somebody that knows, but they don't have the vision. Then you could have somebody that has the vision. And through that vision, he will bring about the things necessary for its achievement. And he will be the one leading the one that knows intellectually. We know that the laws governing electricity have been formulated in such a way that this invisible power can be controlled and used for our benefit and comfort in thousands of ways. We know that messages are carried around the world, that ponderous machinery does its bidding, that it now illuminates practically the whole world. But we know too that if we consciously or ignorantly violate its law by touching a live wire when it is not properly insulated, the result will be unpleasant and possibly dangerous. A lack of understanding of the laws governing in the invisible world has the same result, and many are suffering the consequences all the time. Now, it has been explained that the law of causation depends upon polarity. A circuit must be formed. Now, this circuit cannot be formed unless we operate in harmony with the law. Now, how shall we operate in harmony with the law unless we know what the law is? And then how shall we know what the law is? By study, by observation. We see the law in operation everywhere. All nature testifies to the operation of the law by silently, constantly expressing itself in the law of growth. Where there is growth, there must be life. Where there is life, there must be harmony, so that everything that has life is constantly attracting to itself the conditions and the supply which are necessary for its most complete expression. Now, if your thought is in harmony with the creative principle of nature, it is in tune with the infinite mind, and it will form the circuit. It will not return to you void, but it is possible for you to think thoughts that are not in tune with the infinite. And when there is no polarity, the circuit is not formed. What then is the result? What is the result when a dynamo is generating electricity? The circuit is cut off and there is no outlet. The dynamo stops. Since all possession is based on consciousness, the real goal of what he is bringing us into is forming our own circuitry to be in tune and to be in unity with the infinite mind. Because a lot of these people are setting this law, the universal law, these spiritual laws in operation against themselves. And what this is doing, it's giving us the power to put ourselves in position to be in congruence with this infinite mind, to be a positive force with it, to have a polarity, to formulate the circuit, to have polarity with the universal mind. That is exactly what this master key system is doing for us. It is bringing us into congruence with the workings of universal law, which is formulating our own polarity to set these laws in motion conscientiously. And through that polarity, through being in congruence with it, we'll be able to create the things that we want to create. And this is the secret. This is what all those successful people talk about when it's in our thinking. We have to change the way we think. And it starts by bringing our mind and our mental attitude in subjection to higher laws and to higher principles, because we then become that polarity for its constructive work into our lives. Remember, it's like he said in the beginning, the thing that changes, that separates the successful people from the unsuccessful people is the mental attitude. Because through our attitude of mind, in understanding the laws and bringing our own thought processes into conjunction, into congruence with the universal thought process, essentially with the way God thinks, the Word of God, when we bring ourselves into connection with the Word of God and embody it, then everything just works out in our favor. Again, all things work together for our good, because it is through the use of law. Like you said, herein, that's where the power of the subconscious mind lies. Because we have to train our mind and reprogram our subconscious so we could habitually be that and automatically think from that state, from that higher thought, from that realm of consciousness. So we could become something entirely new. Something much bigger, something much greater, so we could be that symbol. So whoever sees and watches will know that they also have the power within them. And this is the information that will enable them to manifest their dream. Because this isn't about me. None of this is about me. It's about you and what you are capable of doing for yourself. I'm just a channel for you to see what's possible for you, because as I grow and develop and I achieve the things which I'm diligently working to achieve, in me sharing this information and documenting my progress of going through the Master Key, and you seeing the transformation, which will help build the credibility that, hey, this is real, this is true, this is law. And through the law, and through polarity, and through consciousness, you will be able to achieve that image that you desire to achieve. Now, why? Because we are relying upon the power of the universal mind, which is greater than anybody's opinion, which is greater than what anybody else has to say or think about us, because we are in tune with, again, the infinite and the workings of infinite law, and cause and effect will work in our favor regardless of what anybody else says. And I know he said in the prior lesson that even the mightiest intellect will lose if it is not in congruence with the law, and the humblest intellect will succeed and overcome because it is in tune with the infinite. So let's move on. It will be exactly the same with you. If you entertain thoughts which are not in accordance with the infinite, and cannot therefore be polarized, there is no circuit. You are isolated. The thoughts cling to you, harass you, worry you, and finally bring about disease and possibly death. The physician may not diagnose the case exactly in this way. He may give it some fancy name which has been manufactured for the various ills which are the result of wrong thinking, but the cause is the same nevertheless. Now, I know I mentioned the placebo effect of today, that people were cured by a sugar pill, but it was mainly by their belief that the pill was going to cure them. And that lied ultimately in their thinking. The fact that they thought that they were going to be cured, and they believed in their own ability in the ability of the pill to cure them. That is what caused the power of healing to manifest in them and overcome whatever sickness that they had. So what does that mean? That the sickness ultimately came about from the thinking process, from the thought process and the belief of the individual themselves. Now when you look even in the book of life, when the sick lady touched the robe of Christ and she was healed, she believed that she was going to be healed when she touched his robe. And that is what healed her. And Jesus, as he said, he felt the healing power come out of him. And he said, "Who touched my robe?" And the lady, in fear, admitted to the truth that it was her that touched his robe. And he said, "It's okay. It is your faith that healed you." It is the faith that she had in the healing process that made her well. And as he has already told us, that everything that he's done, we can do too, if we only but listen and understand. Constructive thought must necessarily be creative, but creative thought must be harmonious. And this eliminates all destructive or competitive thought. Wisdom, strength, courage, and all harmonious conditions are the result of power. And we have seen that all power is from within. Again, why? Because it comes from the spirit. It comes from the internal part of man. And spirit being the creative power of the universe. And thought being an activity of spirit. It is in our thoughts. We have to think courageous. We have to think from a state of power, from a state of abundance and wisdom and courage. And as we think from those states, we have to actively embody that. And we know the law of attraction will work in our favor to bring about the conditions desired, and through our acting on them, which will really manifest it in form. Likewise, every lack, limitation, or adverse circumstances is the result of weakness. And weakness is simply the absence of power. It comes from nowhere. It is nothing. The remedy then is simply to develop power. And this is accomplished in exactly the same manner that all power is developed, by exercise. Now this exercise consists in making an application of your knowledge. Knowledge will not apply itself. You must make the application. So you must take what you are learning and formulate it into wisdom. Because we can know, I think Lao Tzu says it, that to know and not to do is not to know. So if you know something but you're not acting upon it, you really don't know it. You're not doing the things necessary to manifest it. You're not embodying it in your character. Remember, we have to act on it in the physical world. Materially, we have to embody it. So, applying the knowledge, turn it into wisdom. Abundance will not come to you out of the sky, neither will it drop into your lap, but a conscious realization of the law of attraction and the intention to bring it into operation for a certain, definite, and specific purpose. And the will to carry out this purpose will bring about the materialization of your desire by the natural law of transference. As within, so without. If you are in business, it will increase and develop along regular channels. Possibly new or unusual channels of distribution will be opened. And when the law becomes fully operative, you will find that the things you seek are seeking you. So utilizing the law of attraction conscientiously, so you can become a creator. You can be polarized to become a conscientious co-creator with the universal mind, and deliberately and legitimately bring about the conditions that you desire. Deliberately. I mean, who doesn't want the wisdom and knowledge to be able to do that. And this is the master key. That is the key to living the life that you desire to live. And this is the wisdom, the knowledge that separates the successful people from the unsuccessful people. Because only a small group of people really know and understand this information and are applying it. Now this week, select a blank space on the wall or any other convenient spot. This is Dale. This is the boy. Say hi. He was up here, so told you you'd get the opportunity to see them. At least one of them anyway. They are the cutest things. A little bit of a pain in the butt, but it is what it is. Now, to our exercise. Mentally draw a black horizontal line. Okay, hold on. Select a blank space on the wall or any other convenient spot from where you usually sit. Now mentally draw a black horizontal line about 6 inches long. Try to see the line as plainly as though it were painted on the wall. Now mentally draw 2 vertical lines connecting with this horizontal line at either end. Now draw another horizontal line connecting with the 2 vertical lines. Now you have a square. Try to see the square perfectly. When you can do so, draw a circle within the square. Now place a point in the center of the circle. Now draw the point towards you about 10 inches. Now you have a cone on a square base. You will remember that your work was all in black. Change it to white, to red, to yellow. If you can do this, you are making excellent progress and will soon be enabled to concentrate on any problem you may have in mind. When any object or purpose is clearly held in thought, its precipitation in tangible and visible form is merely a question of time. Quote, "The vision always precedes and itself determines the realization." End quote. Lillian Whitting. Now one more quote by Emerson. "A vivid thought brings the power to paint it, and in proportion to the depth of its source is the force of its projection." Now that is the end of part 10. If you made it to the end of this video with me, thank you for watching. Now remember, as a 7, God is our strength and power. He makes our way perfect. 2 Samuel 22:23, as God was with King David, through the power of the infinite mind, King David, as a small boy, was able to destroy Goliath. And as we're learning here, the exact operations of how this mind works for us through our thoughts, through our mental pictures. David had no disbelief, no doubt, because he knew that the infinite God, the great I Am, was greater, more powerful than Goliath and the giant. And through that knowing and that belief, he overcame and became remembered in history. You can make history. You just have to believe it, see it, and work every day diligently to becoming the person you need to become. Again, it's going to take a while, but it's better to wake up every day with a goal and to move towards something than to be somebody that just has no goals, has no reason to be alive, and has no desire to do more than just what they are, or to give more into this world than just what they seek for themselves. Remember, we are all here for each other. What we want for ourselves, we want for all. So that being said, it's the end of this video. We have our meditation, our practice to do to create that horizontal line. From that horizontal line, a black horizontal line. See it as clearly on the wall as if it was actually on the wall. 2 vertical lines from that black horizontal line, with another horizontal line connecting the 2 vertical lines, which is going to make a square base. From that square base, we're going to add a black point into the center, and from that center we pull the dot closer to us, which will create a cone. And then we're going to change the cone from a black cone to a white cone to a red cone to whatever color cone that we desire. It's my little boy. It's my cub. Right? Because we are the lions. Part of the tribe of Judah. Says Christ is the Lion of Judah. Go play with your sister. I'll see you on the other side of the galaxy.